Reducing body mass can reduce the amount of work required to overcome vertical displacement. It can improve your ability to accelerate, sprinting, or when attacking. It can reduce your rolling resistance, and if it reduces frontal area or surface area, it can even reduce area of unknown. I've analysed a large database of anthropometric profiles collected on Australian female cyclists over the last 13 years, and I found that in world-class Australian female cyclists, they tend to be leaner than their elite and sub-elite counterparts, and that for athletes that progress from a sub-elite to elite status based on their results, they seem to become a little bit lighter and a little bit leaner. So there does seem to be some sort of relationship between body composition and performance. It's our experience at the Australian Institute of Sport that both domestically and internationally, some athletes have resorted to some quite extreme measures to restrict energy in the hopes of achieving an optimal body composition. On occasion, this has probably been catalysed by inappropriate comments by a coach. Excessively restricting energy intake can have a number of clinical manifestations which exist along the spectrum, but include disordered eating, menstrual dysfunction, and low bone mineral density. Byrne and colleagues have looked at a large sample of Australian athletes, elite athletes, and measured their perceived intensity of social cultural pressure to be lean and compared it to non-athletic controls. What they found was that athletes in the thin-build sports tended to have a greater perceived pressure to be lean compared to those in normal build sports and non-athletic controls. And all three groups, females seem to have to rate higher on that measure. They also reported a greater drive for thinness and also a greater prevalence of eating disorders in that group. It could well be assumed that cyclists are similar to other thin build sports. However, there are no studies that have looked at the perceptions of female cyclists towards body mass prior to major competition, and also the different strategies that they perhaps use to manipulate it throughout the year. Greater awareness of this can help guide safe and effective body mass manipulation strategies, and perhaps also guide effective communication a bit better as well. So the purpose of my study was to describe satisfaction with body mass in this group prior to a major competition, and also to describe the self-reported 12-month fluctuations in body mass, the methods that they use to manipulate body mass, and any association that we could identify between body mass and that it has with menstrual function and their professional status, so whether that's professional or amateur. So I developed a questionnaire, it's a 19-part questionnaire which is aimed at identifying the level of cyclist they are, what type, their career fluctuation in body weight, how they felt this weight affects their performance, how much it's fluctuated in the last 12 months, how frequently they're conscious about body mass and wanting to change it, and different techniques they use to manipulate, as well as the regularity of the menstrual cycle. I administered this questionnaire at Australian National Championships and also with a number of athletes at Oceania Championships, as the course profile was similar to what you might expect to see at a World Cup or World Championships course in terms of the profile and the circuit. I compared current mass, career lowest mass, career highest mass, and perceived ideal mass for performance in these competitions using a one-way within subjects ANOVA and Bonferroni post-hoc analysis. I calculated the percentage difference between current body mass and ideal body mass and compared this variable for riders of different types, and I also looked at the differences between professional and amateur athletes. So I managed to recruit 37 female cyclists, predominantly at national championships, who represented about 45% of the starters, and then an additional 5 at Oceanias that hadn't already completed the questionnaire previously. They were reasonably high calibre, so 15 of these are competing internationally as professionals, and the other 22 competed at a reasonably high level domestically. I found that 23 of the respondents reported that current mass was not optimal for performance in these races, and that on average the difference between what they suggested was their current mass and their perceived ideal mass was about 1.5 kilos difference, with ideal mass being about 2.5% lower. If you look down at this graph here, you can see that they reported that their current mass was significantly higher than their lowest mass and their ideal mass, but there was no significant difference between ideal mass and their lowest mass. Here I looked at cyclists of different types, and I found that self-reported current mass was lower in climbers compared to cyclists of other types. And when I looked at current versus ideal mass, I found that it was, and again, very small sample sizes, but it seemed to be the difference between current mass and ideal mass was greatest for sprinters and all-rounders. Found no difference between professional and amateur athletes in this difference at all. When asked about how they felt their lowest mass, what effect their lowest mass has on performance, half of them reported that it was beneficial, 20% almost reported that it was extremely beneficial, and again, there was no difference in the response to this question between professional and amateur athletes. All but one respondents agreed that female cyclists are a weight-conscious population. And we found that there was 12 respondents who suggested that their coach or director had indicated that they were dissatisfied with their body weight in the previous 12 months. 70% reported that they had attempted to reduce their body mass, and 24 of those had been successful, with an average weight loss of about 2.4 kilos in the prior 12 months. I found no group effect for the type of rider, so whether they were a climber, time trialist, sprinter, or all-rounder, or their professional status, so professional or amateur. I identified that there were 5 that reported that a physician had diagnosed them with a clinical eating disorder at some point. There were 20, or approximately half, who reported being conscious of wanting to reduce body mass at least once a week, and 27% who were conscious of this more daily. Again, I found no difference for professional versus amateur, different types of riders. Found no effect of their national racing series ranking or the number of years which they've been professional. When asked what techniques they use to manipulate body composition, 3 most common responses of those that were available to choose from were reduced food intake, they avoided foods high in fat or sugar, which are probably not uncommon and not things that we probably wouldn't advocate typically anyway. But I did identify a number of respondents who reported more extreme measures, such as skipping meals, purging, or even using weight loss supplements. 20 of the respondents reported that they had an irregular menstrual cycle in the previous 12 months. There were 18 who were not on an oral contraceptive, or IUD, or an implant, and of those, 10 were amenorrhea. One limitation to the study, I probably should have asked why the others were using an OCP. It's possible that the gynaecologist had suggested that they should use it because of menstrual dysfunction. I found no significant difference between those who reported being amenorrhea and those who were regular in terms of their weight, how much their weight had changed in the last 12 months. So, as reported previously, we know that thin-build athletes have a greater drive for thinness, greater prevalence of eating disorders, and a greater social cultural pressure to be lean, but no studies have directly investigated cyclists. And furthermore, with this population, they haven't investigated their perceptions of mass directly towards performance, what techniques they might use to manipulate body mass, and the relationship between mass change and the types of riders and their professional status, which is adds to the literature. So in conclusion, female cyclists do indeed appear to be a weight-conscious population who frequently and deliberately seem to manipulate body mass. There was no relationship that I could identify between mass or magnitude of change in mass and their professional status or menstrual status, although I did identify a reasonably high prevalence of menstrual dysfunction. So in conclusion, I would suggest that it's important to monitor and indeed communicate effectively with this group of athletes if you're a coach or a sports scientist, and set realistic body composition targets based on health and performance outcomes rather than just arbitrary values. I'd like to acknowledge my advisors and also Cycling Australia and athletes.